Okay, let's get started. So for some reason, the information, the entire details on the villain design challenge brief on the pinned at the top of the Reddit is gone. It's completely gone. All of the reference photos, as well as all the detail about where to post it, what to do, what the design details are, what the requirements are, they're all gone with only this blurb left here. The last person who edited it was me, but I didn't edit anything out. I didn't take anything out at all. I don't know how the pictures get deleted because they're uploaded. Anyway, I will be adding more information to this by the end of the day, but if you want to join the Villain Design Challenge, I promise there's more information than this 2 sentences here. Will be available to you. There will be rewards, possibly a community poll for the winners, semifinalists. I will choose and you guys will choose the winners as soon as I figure out how to add the polls. That's it for that. It'll be due April 30th for anyone interested in joining. And if I were to give you like a quick little description on it, design your own villain, background and all, in a vertical canvas. So a vertical or horizontal canvas. It can be a cinematic scene. It can be a book cover style. It can be a standing character design, but with background. So it can be more of an active standing character design like the Yaretsi challenge we did. It'll just be a villain that you write up. So you have to hand in a write-up for that character that you wrote. Their motive, their goal, what they are, what kind of villain are they? Are they a mischievous trickster, a Nancy type of villain, or are they an anarchist, a complete crazy, I want to rule the world kind of villain? And if you do, remember that the design is a combination of gesture, costume, and expression. So I want to see a lot of work and research done into gesture thumbnails, gesture silhouettes, experimentation with different expressions, character design and costume, so their hairstyle, what they're wearing, their weapon of choice. All of this has to tie back into the character all at once. It can't just be a blue-haired original character with an angry expression and a smile. No, I'm not taking that. That kind of stuff won't even be critiqued. If you want to get critiqued and get an opportunity to win Portrait Studios, some free sessions with me, portfolio review sessions, all my brushes, and a bunch of other stuff, and it's like $300 worth of rewards, you have to follow the rules, and you have to make sure you're putting some creative energy and writing into your design. So it's really exciting. I don't know why this thing got deleted, but it's a really exciting challenge. It is my favorite challenge to host. The villain is the most fun part about any movie I've ever seen. I love seeing how different villains kind of interact with the protagonist. Protagonists tend to be very boring. That's why I love the villain and love designing villains. Another announcement is there will be a massive Portrait Studio sale, 2-week long sale at 50% off starting June. So the start of June to mid-June, 2 weeks long, maybe 3 weeks if there's stragglers. But if you are waiting to have a copy of Portrait Studio and currently the price is too steep, it will reach up to $45 or $40. It'll go down to $45 or $40 during June. This will only be for PC users. I'm not sure if I will allow it for Mac users. Mac already takes a massive, almost 50% cut anyway from us for every sale we make for a Mac. Which is incredibly unfair, especially because of all the hurdles we had to jump to publish on Mac. So we might not be able to do it like that. There's also can't seem to find my little notes. But yeah, I think that's it for like the major announcements. But for anyone who wants to support on Patreon, oh yes, before I get to that, the community is officially done. It's closed. It's gone. There is no more Google Plus community, so all Google Plus information will be removed. And please remember, if you see anyone referencing or wondering where Google Plus is, obviously it's been shut down. I did download all the information from Google Plus, so I have it all. It's 20 gigs of history and images posted there, so I have that forever with me. But for anyone who was wondering what the heck the 14-day challenge is, go to Istebrak.com and click on the community tab and scroll down. There's a massive Q&A on the 14-day challenge and everything that has to do with it. There is no brush requirement. You can use any brush you want. Just remember to use the proper brush. Basically blocking and blending are two separate brush requirements. But yeah, everything that you need to know is here, as well as old challenges, including the old version of the villain challenge, I believe is here, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is right at the top. So this is just some of the challenges we posted in the past if anyone wants to try them out. If you want to support me on Patreon, you can. My goal is 1,000 patrons. Even if you just support as a watcher, it means a lot. It helps support the channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel in any way, a patron is always the best way to go. It doesn't have to be the $20 or the intensive class tiers like the $10 or $20. You can just do the $5 or the $1 patron. And that'll really, really help me, help my channel, it'll help keep the channel growing. Currently our channel is under 100K, so it's really hard for me to get a representative yet for my channel, and things don't really, they don't really take my channel very seriously, so I don't really work with sponsors. So if you guys are interested in supporting in that way. Also on my channel is where the store, you'll find everything that will be on sale in June. All my brushes will also be on sale. If you're interested in my brushes, anything that I use, everything is available here. But if you don't want to wait and you want my brushes for free, you can always post your notes. 2 people have recently won brush sets for their good note taking. So you can post some notes on the class notes category here, and I will have a look at them at the end of every week and just award some people some good note taking for their good note taking. For instance, some of the people that won recently had the most amazing notes I've seen in a while. I believe it was this one. Really extensive notes. Almost every major factoid I added was included in another set of notes right here. Both of them won brush sets. If the notes are amazing with diagrams and pictures and effort, you might even win Portrait Studio for free if you don't have it. Let's get started on today's critique. 14-day challenge graduate. Amazing, amazing improvement. Let's look at day 1. Contrast dependent, really muddy values, androgynous, not really sure where it's going. The face isn't pulling from any one specific trope. The expression, the eyebrows, the eyes don't seem very focused or realistic. Excessive blending, no edges. Really, really deep dark shadows, Hitler mustache, the works. We move over into the 14th day. A little bit too much exposure on the brightness. Background value is a bit too bright. But the expression, nice and neutral. Eyebrows are really, really well done. The eyes feel very realistic. Again, I look to the eye socket to assess the skill of a student. The eye sockets are amazing. They look wonderful. Upper and lower eye sockets are of different degrees. The nose could use some work. The nose shadow could use some work. The nose is a bit small, almost dysfunctionally small. The face is beautiful. The trope reads as the pixie beautiful character, but with obviously that nice control over the amount of eye size you have or the pupil, excessive pupil detail. I love brown eyes. A little bit too much blending on the upper lip, not much detail there, but definitely more edge work than where it used to be. Wonderful work. This is just some amazing improvement, some of the best I've seen in a while. I was really praising it a lot last night. Careful with your whites. Your midtones are starting to read as highlights. Midtones are the flesh of the piece. It's where all the values and the best colors sit. Midtones are information. Midtones are flesh. It's the data in your painting that you're delivering. Too much black and too much white, you have zero data. So make sure that you're minimizing on that excessive exposure. But let's move into the actual, but really, really great job, and I hope this inspires anyone who is trying to start their 14-day challenge. It is a sure thing that you will improve. Keep reference to a minimum, but if you don't know all of the major details of how to do the 14-day challenge, just go to the community tab on Istebrak.com and read all the details there. All the information you need is there. There's a community tab there for a reason. But yeah, let's move on. So in this piece, any questions before I start? No notifications, I see. Oh, it's so sad. I don't know why no notifications have been sent out. I don't know, maybe it's the new YouTube improvement. They've changed everything. I don't know if it's because I don't ask people to like and subscribe. I really don't, and I don't care to. Maybe I should start doing that. I'm not really a YouTuber. I really don't care for that. Like and subscribe stuff. I'm not out for millions of views, and my main income isn't YouTube, so I don't really do that. I have run my own business. So I don't know why you guys, if it's come to the point where me not caring has made it so that you guys are not getting notifications and viewers aren't attending. and people aren't being told when my videos are uploaded. I have to start asking you guys to like the channel or check out the little bell if it's been enabled or not. And as soon as I been enabled or not, and as soon as I get my 100K, I will be assigned. I think I don't know if they still do it like this. I will be assigned a channel rep, and maybe they'll be able to help me figure out why my audience is not getting notifications. Again, let's get started. So what we're looking at here is some color confusion. It's a cute, adorable little design, beautiful job. There are just some issues here and there. No major contrast issues. I like the background value. It's pretty controlled, but one thing is really holding this down. You are trying to represent the color yellow. And if you're going for a fur type realistic yellow that we see on animals, it's not going to work, because what you're doing here is you are using a very blocky snout render. The snout is very blocky. He's looking more like a toy than he is an actual animal. Even though you've kind of fuzzed out some of the edges here because of the fur texture, it's not going to work. Either go for the plastic doll texture and saturate, or you go for the realistic fur texture and desaturate, but you can't have any of this blocky stuff, this Lego type block. This looks like a very muddy color. Yellow is at its ugliest when it is desaturated, because it just looks like baby diarrhea or baby vomit. So what I want to show you is where your yellow should be. And we're not saturating every single square inch of this yellow head. We're saturating along what? Does anyone have the answer, or can anyone see what I'm doing? What I'm avoiding when I'm saturating. Alright, so I'm saturating. I'm using the sponge tool on saturate, and I'm saturating a very specific group of values. What are they? Yeah, plasticky. If you were going for plasticky, that means it's capable of holding more saturation than fur, which has more organic, pale, earthy camouflage colors. Like a fox would have very brownish colors or leafy colors. So if you're going for plastic, we're no longer going for organic realism. And therefore we need to push the saturation a bit higher. Midtones, exactly, Jula. Good job. I love when the answer is just right away. Good job. I am saturating the midtones per group. So oversaturating the shadows. You see how that really quickly read as subsurface scattering? Saturating shadows is subsurface scattering. Period. Write that back to me. So when you saturate a shadow, it means, let's take a look here. This might be cute. You might like it, but it's just not. It's not that type of plastic. But if you want to keep it, keep it. But look at what happens when we saturate shadows. It instantly looks like subsurface scattering. Do you see that? And that's subsurface scattering is when light passes through a partially transparent object, a translucent object, and emanates the light from the outside, from the inside out, carrying the color and saturating the color therein. Right, so that's what it looks like as subsurface. If you want to keep it, keep it. I think it's cute, but honestly, the color is in the character, not in the ears. So I would probably keep those desaturated a little bit. But if you want to keep it, keep it. If you're going for that, what I would do is instead of saturating, I'll saturate just a little bit along the midtones. But instead of oversaturating into subsurface, I will grab a completely new color that has a bit more redness to it, slid down into purples, and that would be what I use on the shadows. All right, I'm just getting a color layer and just doing this. This won't create subsurface scattering because Sponge Tool knows that it won't work, and obviously with the new 2019 Photoshop, knows that it won't work unless it raises up a little bit. So Sponge Tool can sometimes work like Dodge Tool. But I'm just getting that red value everywhere. And I'm just bringing in a very controlled saturation into the shadows. And I did not saturate without dropping the value down into the purples, which is the lower reds. Lower reds are purples. You don't just actually go and get purple. You get the thing nearest to purple, but it's still red, which is the deepest red. Now I'm just going to clean this up. Alright, some things that can and do happen is some of the red falling on top of different areas, some red falling on top of that, and we'll take care of that towards the end. But we're trying to push the realism as far as possible. And moving back into that yellow. Yellow does not exist unless it has a bright enough value. A dark yellow it's not real. It's not a real thing. Drop into the shadows, even into the lighter values of yellow, and then you're starting to get baby vomit. It does not work. And it tries to act green because that's the nearest value that still looks okay as a dark value, but it has yellow in it. So a dark yellow can be an orange or a green. It just depends on what you're trying to pull off and what kind of wash. But me saturating, and I can keep saturating the midtones as high as I want. I'm maximizing the saturation right now on these midtones, and they still look okay, but I'm not sure how, I'm not sure what kind of shit Sponge Tool does nowadays. So it might actually start darkening or might causing some weird shit. So I'm just gonna eyeball it as I go. Okay, so I'm just grabbing that background value. I don't know why you have this shade of dark just hanging around. Just have a nice clean cut, please. And I'm just using a blocking brush. This is going to be very messy to clean up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the older, the before, and I'm going to erase away at what I don't want. Okay. Just trying to create those little shadows here coming off the feet. Alright. Another thing that we can't just saturate, we have to illuminate these midtones for yellow to work. This is not merely me talking about Subsurface, but Subsurface does work very well with yellow. But look at that before and look at it now. It's just a little bit too saturated, also because we need to start including some white. So I go to Sponge Tool, desaturate, and desaturate all highlights. But I will do that when I bring in the environment color, which I have not brought in yet, that bounce light. But just take a look at how dull your yellow was and take a look at how bright your background was. Very problematic. So now that I've cleaned that up, I'm going to get a soft brush. You know what? I need to find a soft brush, like an actual soft brush. Okay. Oh, I see. I see what you're doing. I see how it is Photoshop. Okay. So we're grabbing that pure white, and that will desaturate on its own. And I'm just raising these values up. Not at 100%, obviously. Wherever we have those little whites sit, and that's me trying to represent that shine in the plastic surface texture. Different textures behave differently with colors. When you study texture, you're studying the color of the texture as well. Remember that. Alright, and I'm radially climbing this highlight into white. But because it's an edge, I will erase away. Same thing on the other side. Erase away. And that same yellow that I'm using everywhere else, that same white, sorry, I will use it on everywhere else. You guys might hear a noise in a bit, and that's my landlord showing some people the apartment. Alright, and I'm just using that. And see how I'm desaturating that midtone? Because I'm layering that white on top. It's not that saturated anymore. White desaturates, write that down. Okay, so when it comes to the surface texture of the eye area, the eye whites, what I usually do is I just try to show where the horizon line of the ground is, that floor. And I move it around the circular dome of the eyeball. And that's how you make that proper shine, because now it looks like he's actually reflecting his environment, like glass. And you can distort it, you can throw different kinds of images on. It can just be anything. Really, eyes are just mirrors that are circular. They are convex mirrors, and they distort the image thrown upon. Right? And some of these are not just straight specular reflection. Some of these are just the actual nearby picture. This is the picture that I am painting. And the more you distort it, the more curvature it has, the more you represent that the iris, the eyeball is curved, and the iris and the pupil are curved. Okay? And if this is too sharp for you, you can always blur it. So we're added that highlighter layer. We've added that blur, and you can duplicate this if you want to. I think it's too much. I wouldn't duplicate it. Merge down. So these are the extra layers we're adding. And then you have this beautiful orange, which I think is the perfect saturation right now. I'm not sure I understand what's happening here. Is it a reflection? If it is, it really needs to be smudged. This toolbox is not that perfectly, it's not made of like glass or anything like that. It's not going to reflect that perfectly. And then we've got the bounce light, so that ambience that sits on the shadows. And that would be sitting right over here. And then I will follow it up with some color reflection. So that ambience can sit on the far part of the ear, on the top of the head, just as a simple outline. Right here on the, as to cancel out the terminator of the ear. Right down here. A little bit of bounce light on the side of the snout, just like so. See that? The creature's starting to pop out now, the character. So before, after. And you become aware instinctively where all of this bounce light sits if you do your form studies. You'll see the cube, you'll know that it's a justified area. Whether or not it looks familiar or is familiar territory to you, you'll know that it warrants the bounce light in that area. And that's how you make decisions like that. One of the most common questions I get is, how do I know where to put stuff? How do I know? How do I know where to put this and where to stop blending that? It's like one of the most common and most, I think most intelligent questions, because it shows a critical thinker in the student. Like, how do I know? Which is the real to be or not to be question of art. Right, so before, after. One thing that happens is a saturation belt right on the midtone before the terminator. So we'll have like a little excessive amount of saturation just sitting there. Something like that, like a little bit of a golden glow. One thing you can do is in shadows of yellow, see how this is a bit too gray? We can saturate that yellow shadow. The thing is, Sponge Tool has been, maybe if I turn off Vibrance, Sponge Tool has been kind of raising the value a little bit too much, I noticed. 16% is still high, that's crazy. Okay, I'm going to saturate the blue in the eyes. It seems more like an environmental blue. I'm going to saturate just around the bounce light there. And we have that weirdness going on here with the edge. And because it's plastic, clean that edge. A hard edge at this point, as much as color is involved in the nature of a texture, the edge is involved in the nature of the texture. How sharp or how fuzzy an edge is obviously has everything to do with texture anatomy. If it's fur or if it's plastic. So make sure you have nice, clean edges when it comes to hard surfaces. Because that's the atom, that's how it's built, that's its atomic composition or molecular composition. then what I'm going to do is one total thing is just desaturate ever so slightly everything. Just a touch drop, but it's still a massive jump from where it was before, which was extremely dull. The ID of the yellow just was simply not there. It was not reading as yellow. Okay, and then what I would do is, based off what the yellow does, I'll shift the yellow over into a little bit of green, because your yellow was a bit too golden, and then you can get back the old colors that we had before, but take a look at the yellow before we shifted it. It was a bit too golden. Yellow is technically a little green. It's more green than orange. So that current yellow, where it is right now, is a shift into green away from where it was before. But the orange also shifted into greens, so you might want to select this layer. Go back to before I did that shift, and then erase so that you still have the old yellows and all the other colors. The cheek area. Everything is still that color, but that yellow is still green. Okay, do a little bit of both. As for the framing, I'm not sure why the lower half of the canvas is so like where everything is occupied. Maybe just cropping it might just clean up your canvas a little bit. Kind of feels empty. Other things you can do is actually bringing in like traceable reflections of the light ray, so something like that, just to show the reflectivity of the surfaces and how strong that reflection is. Sometimes it sits just on the rim. Sometimes you can throw in a bloom, which is that glow back of a reflective surface, especially on the whites of the eyes. Not sure why you're placing the two lights here on different areas. This should be up here, unless for some reason the awning of the eyelid is lower here. So you either make both cast the same shadow, or you try to remove the lights. Okay. One thing you can do is include the iris if you want a little bit more realism, and then I'm going to just saturate around nearly every gray that you have, because that gray that you have in the yellow is really, really overwhelming. Everywhere where there is black, I'm just saturating. Alright, and then finally grabbing that red and a color layer and throwing some of that red over it. Red carries more pigment than yellow, so red would do the reflecting. It wouldn't be yellow on red and red on yellow. It would just be the red doing that, because red is carrying more information, more saturation, more pigment. Yellow is it's bright, it's reflective, but it's not going to be doing all of that reflecting on the side. I would throw a little bit on the ground, get some of that blue, throw it on the ground as well. That red reflection off the toolbox will reflect downward, not along the direction of the cast shadow. Okay, and I'm just going to do one more little thing, which is a dodge tool on midtones, because I think your values as well as your saturation was not yellow, so your values need to be yellow as well. So I'm just highlighting the midtones, or just the shadows really, I guess, if there are any to be had. I think that looks better. Lots and lots of that gray shadow over here. You see how dark it was, but you were trying to be yellow? See all that gray in here? It's a lot of gray. So just going back to color layer, seeing if I can correct that. And this is why we categorize yellow as the most difficult color to mess around with. And this is why I recommend, after you get a good hold over your form studies, do form studies in different colors, a red cube, a blue cube, a yellow cube, and see if you can just figure out how different colors through what doors and how they travel into cools and warms, how they react with different light sources. There is going to be some pocketed yellow bounce light right inside the hat, I mean the ear. Whatever, I'm just gonna do it into a new layer. Just over here, just like an ambient reflection. You see how many layers of realism and light behavior we're going through right now? Look, quite a bit. I'm being very, very cautious with how I'm pulling this off. Well, that's what I get from going to grayscale to color. Yeah, if you don't know the color's behavior when you transfer from grayscale to color, you are not preparing your grayscale for that color. Yellow needs brights. Yellow doesn't do well in dark. Yellow doesn't do in dark, period. Okay, so before, really dull, very cute design, but it's not working with these dull colors. Lots of layering here of reflection. You can choose to keep some, you can get rid of others. You can get rid of some of that extra light. I don't like the two iris lights. This is just what happened after the correction. I don't like the two at all. So I would get rid of this one, and I would get rid of this one. I like just the one. Seems a little bit more controlled. If you want to get rid of this reflector and keep this one, get rid of this one and keep that one. I like the one that shows off the horizon line. Right, but if you want to ease up on this bounce light, I like it. I would keep it. And then of course, because I'm using soft brush so much for the speed of the paint over today, don't use soft brush so much, or make sure you're following every major soft brush stroke with a nice clean hard edge brush. Alright, so all of this little stuff here I did with a soft brush on Dodge tool, just resharpen any cast shadows that need sharpening. They are very important to keep sharp. I think I have a lot of bleed in here against the background color, from the background color, on the background color. I would clean that up as well. Alright, let's move on. Careful with those colors, peeps. Okay, this piece is really, really ambitious, and it's a lot of detail that you're pursuing for someone who has probably done only a handful of 3/4 views or successful 3/4 views in their lifetime. I would say less than 10 good ones. And by good, I mean this is the goodest that you've done. By good, I don't mean pro. So what I'm saying is you have not spent enough time perfecting the 3/4 view for you to be doing any of this. Essentially, stop with the masterpieces. One really, really big mistake that should not have escaped you, but because you skipped your studies, or because you had hair there before, or maybe you drew the face later, or maybe you drew the face as a study and decided to turn it into a masterpiece, which is the usual story. Because of this problem, your proportions are completely off. This is where the eye should be. Alright? No, this eye is right. It's everything else that is wrong. And if everything else looks wrong to you, that's because everything else is placed wrong. Right? Where the eye was before, it just did not make sense with what you were doing with the jawline. Right? Again, for someone who is spending so much time on detail, you sure did skip a lot of the study or your You're kind of overestimating where your skill set is currently with 3/4 view rotation. The eyebrow should be a lot further forward in a 3/4 view. It's no longer a front view eye. You're drawing a front view eye typically right now is what you're doing. You're drawing a front view eye for a 3/4 view. That's not how it works. It's not acceptable. Front view eye is not a 3/4 view eye. It's not interchangeable. It can trick you into thinking it looks good, but it's not. It doesn't work. See how you're showing me the inside instead of the outside of the eyelid? In 3/4 view, we see more of the area that is closest to us. The outside part, so this outer corner of the upper eyelid is more visible than the inner corner of the upper eyelid. But because, again, look at what you did with the lashes as well. Very, very typical masterpiece Russian ass student choices. And because of that, you've completely lost the rotation. The eyeball is perfectly circular, even though she's looking in a complete perspective shift. And this is why for all my students, when we shift over into 3/4 view, I, one, prepare them for a complete drop in their faith in themselves, because it's a completely different eye, nose, and mouth than you're used to drawing from front view. And if you have confidence with your front view, be prepared for a real blow to your confidence when you realize how little you know about 3/4 view. So after I prepare them for that, I tell them absolutely no pupils, no iris, because there's just too much rotation to manage when it comes to 3/4 view. The eyebrow's further forward. It's not directly in front. It's aligned with the nose. There's more of the side of the eye that we see. And I'm just blocking in with my blocking brush here. Nice clean brush strokes to designate planes as they receive light. Look at this value sharing. If you were my student, oh man, you would never see another 5 pixel width brush for probably a good year. And that should kind of show you the kind of strictness I have with my students, and in that, the kind of strictness you should have with yourself. We're seeing more of the outer corner, less of the inner corner. I get that this is makeup, so fine, I won't bug you about the under eyelid makeup, but where is the lower eyelid crease? If she doesn't have one, that's not an excuse. Have one. Make sure all your characters are catering. Their feature types are catering to your education. Some people don't have lower eyelids and they're just puffy, or it's a hooded eye. But for your educational, benefit, make sure you are showing one off. And I know you're getting your ass ripped right now with this critique, and I know you probably had a lot of confidence in this piece, enough confidence to post it on the Reddit, and I'm very proud of you for posting it. And for anyone out there who says I have to get good before I can post on the Reddit, that's not how the Reddit works. That's not how our community works. Post you and your beautiful mistakes unabashed to the community so that you can, one, benefit from the critiques as soon as possible and leave these mistakes behind you. This artist is forever changed after this critique. They will never make this mistake again. They are already better than they were when they started this hour, because their mind has been opened up, especially with the before and after they'll show you. Look at all these muddy values. You have values sitting on the face that make absolutely no sense to the hierarchy of altitudes that are on the face. The forehead is not a shadow. The forehead is the light area on the face. It is the most exposed little satellite area on the face. Little most solar panel, exposed solar panel. The nose is pretty bright here, but you have way too much value sharing on the side of the nose. No radial shading on the nose. Perfect edges around the mouth. No blending in with the rest of the face. It's too many beginner mistakes totaling up to that you spending all this time on the detail. God bless you. You had to have a lot of patience, but it's a waste of time. It's all line dependent anyway. Form studies that get more complicated, more detailed, will help prepare you for how to really show an actual fold in fabric, an actual little design in the armor or the plating, how to actually layer plates with real cast shadows and real core shadows. That's what form studies will prepare you for. Okay, a little bit more issues here. I can't repaint the entire face, but I'll see what I can. Look at this rim light, entirely two-dimensional rim light. Saw it once in a Instagram post by some anime hybrid artist and thought you'd try it. With no principle or theory behind it, you just threw that in there. What you sorely need, and I'm pretty sure you paint a good front view, but you're still line dependent, like you're still generally line dependent. What you really need is a 3/4 view 14-day challenge. If it was a 14-day challenge under my supervision, I'd never let you do under eyelid makeup because you're hiding the waterline, which is such a beautiful part of the eye. It actually shows one of the only eyelids that is always looking in the direction where we can see the thickness of the eyelid. Then there's the three-dimensional shape of the eyeball itself, radially climbed. And if you don't know what radial shading is and you're new to my channel, and I understand if you're new, these are all mistakes that are made by watching other channels. These are mistakes that are not fixed by watching. I'm not really sure what other channels are doing nowadays, but if you were my student, and by my student you're my follower, you know very well what my opinions are on radial shading, how constantly I talk about it, smudging as the best way of blending. These are the common words of our discourse community. And there's just a little bit of a shadow coming off. Trying to keep some of the makeup off the eyelids, off the eyelashes. There's a bit of a shadow. Okay. I'm not sure what people are posting here. The brow bone also needs its own little illumination. It can't just all be cat eye shadow, smoky eye. And that brow bone highlight goes right on top of the shine and shimmer of the oil in the eyebrow hair. If you want to do this with the same speed I'm doing, constantly, always address the perspective in the 3/4 view. And if you don't know what that is, do a trace over diagram. You don't know what a trace over diagram is, go to my videos. Do a video search history, write trace over diagrams, and there's an hour talking about what trace over diagrams are all about. You need to start replacing your symbol with a full-on functional diagram of what an eyeball does in its volume, what exactly is happening. All right, where all the fat layers, where the crease sits, where the eyebrow sits, where these massive contour lines are, these grid lines that sit on top of the face. All right, these are trace over diagrams, functional drawings, medical diagrams of the layers and the components, functional components or function components of the eyeball. And that way you're tricking your mind into remembering things as a functional diagram, but with still lines. And then just replacing your lines with edges has everything to do with how much time you're investing in your 14-day challenge or your form studies. Your starting value is way too dark. I have to even that out. This contrast dependency, these lines everywhere, this bad rotation. This is what's keeping you from making your art look professional. It can look finished, but you don't lie to yourself. Maybe you lie to other people and tell them, yeah, I'm very comfortable with my art. And I'm not talking to this artist specifically. I'm talking to all of us. Maybe you can tell other people, yeah, I'm very comfortable with my current skill. I'll improve as I have fun. Maybe you'll say that to people, but we all know what we're feeling on the inside. And I've worked with enough artists that are honest about what they're really feeling. And I know you noticed that your art is somehow, some way, just not looking right now. And it's because of these issues I listed, these exact fundamentals I pointed to: your line dependency, your lack of form, your lack of volume, your symbol dependency in your brain, the way that your brain thinks, your lack of functional anatomy knowledge, what the nose really needs, your geometric anatomy, all of this stuff. I'm just going to radially climb this real quick. Alright, so this is the stuff that makes stuff look realistic. A little bit of, and the only thing that you preserve The only thing that stays in your original style, this style you're always trying to honor, is the sizes, the scales, the size of the eye, the kind of lip, the kind of face. That's the only thing that's left behind of what you started off with when you started this journey. When you're done this journey, everything else was replaced by realism. Realism can't be half in, half out. Beauty can be half in, half out. And anime is all about that beauty. So you had a lot of that anime excessive eyelash business going on. And you can reintroduce the eyelashes as you go. You'll notice they're useless, though. I will remind you of that. But you can have them back if they're absolutely important to your pinup style that you're going for. Right, a little texture on the eyebrows. Right, really, really simple changes here. The radial shading on the mouth, completely gone, non-existent. Brushstroke number 1. Radial shading, if you don't know what it is, do a quick little video history. This is a miscellaneous critique hour today. It's not a lesson critique hour. I have those uploaded already for all the fundamentals I'm pointing to. See that? Instantly the mouth has matched the face. Instantly it belongs to the face. It's like magic. If you want to know exactly how I did this, I've covered it almost 100 times, I think. If she's smiling, if she's looking at her little device thing that she's managed to finally catch or win, that's expression, that's stuff that you need to invest some research in. She's wearing dark lipstick, so I'll give you that. The edges of the lips can be a bit dark, but geometric anatomy, the native values that are inherited from the cylinder. After the cylinder, the object became the subject, the lip. That still has upper and lower shadows that need to be respected. So if you were the kind of artist who's sick of lying to others and lying to themselves, if you're the kind of artist who's ready to bring in that thing that is missing that they see every time they open their drawing again, or look at their drawing 2 or 3 days later after drawing it and they know something is missed. If you're that kind of artist who wants that change in your life, do some form studies. Alright, so I'm just rendering this as fast as humanly possible right now and do the before and after for you, just to show you where you were before. And if she's wearing that dark lipstick and that dark eyeliner and that dark shadow, I'll reintroduce it now. I'll add it now. I'm adding it back right now. But of course I need a good body of form so that when I add that makeup it looks right, it looks realistic. That thicker eyebrow, and then finally the expression. Alright, she's very proud of her victory, I guess, or that is just a little too simple an eyebrow expression, but we'll keep it. And then I'm just going to raise that smile up. And then to add her deviousness, to add to that deviousness, I would, if it was me, place the eyeball right over here. And you see how the pupil is still large? That's stuff you're allowed to do. That's stuff you're allowed to bring back. And all in all, even after my edit, the face itself was too small in general to the head size. I would also like not really hide that much of the pupil. Okay. But again, this is if you want to do that, if you want to do all this. Let's look at the before and after. I'm not sure what angle it was in. I'm actually going to get rid of the pupils. You can do whatever you want with them. The face is still too small. Just remember that. I increased the size of the face, not the head. The face is too small for that. You know what? I'm just going to fucking do it right now. This is a message to all beginners. If you're an intermediate and you already know all this stuff, if you're intermediate into advanced, Obviously, this was a very common knowledge lesson for you today, but for all of these people at this level who just want to, like, you have a good eye. You have a good eye. I mean, I love the way the hair moves. The proportions are pretty great, to be honest. You have an amazing eye for armor detail. Really great character all around. But we really were not benefiting from any of this rim light, which only flattened the piece. And unless she's got a beard that's catching all that light on the side, there really isn't any need for it. Let me see if I can... No, this is not going to work out. Yeah, the landlord is about to pop in, so I'm going to have to mute real quick. I'm just trying to get rid of this rim light here, which you really don't need to pull off the realism at all. What time is it? Is it the time he said? Yeah. There's videos in my channel on 3/4 view lips, on what's required for that. There's a lot of stuff that is available to you that'll help you begin your journey into 3-dimensional, volume-filled, beautiful, believable characters and that exist in a believable space. By the way, my book is coming out very soon, hopefully in the summer or the fall. It has everything in it, so instead of doing video history searches, you'll have a complete book, textbook of everything I've ever taught. All the fundamentals, all of the descriptions, all my own way of describing them will be available in that book. It's a very long book though. So, we shall see. Alright. Before? Oh, it was the other way. Alright, so flip. Before. Let's zoom in. After. Way too much floating randomness, blotches everywhere. Nose didn't really have much rotation, but I didn't work on the nose. No expression, no relation to that little object she's holding. I just want to clean up the eyebrows a little bit. Again, there's only so much I can do with the time I have. And I do want to add those pupils back in now that I flipped it in the right direction. Right, just a bit more contrast to match the before's level of contrast, but obviously not the excessive amount of it. Okay, before, after, very flat. Do you see that eye? That was a front view eye. Before, after. Oh, oopsie. Be right back, guys. Okay, so I'm just going to do one last little change here for that glamour. That's really very important for pinups, is that eyebrow that you'll pick up soon. I'm just completing that. And this is the kind of stuff where we start shrinking our brush. Of course, I don't want to work too much on the small brush stuff because we just don't have that kind of time. But before, all right, so we're moving into realism. That mouth is starting to combine with the body of the face. This is all working as the same face, the same character. It's a combination of smudge tool and hard edged brushes with my smudge brushes, and those are all available on my store if that's what you want to use. Okay, and there's just so much more. See how you have more shadow on one side, but the cast shadow is pretty symmetrical. You're depending a lot on your rim light to create the distinction between the face and the background, where a simple, clean edge, a well-respected edge, is all that you really needed. Just so much involved in what I'm removing and what I'm changing before, after. We're sculpting now. And then what I like to do is just, when I'm grayscaling, and only when I'm really grayscaling do I bring in dodge tool. I don't bring in dodge tool when I'm coloring, because it just messes around with what's happening with your values way too much. And the reason why I'm not painting over the nose is because there's just way too much fundamental explanation needed for the nose that we cannot do it with the time we have left. All right, things are starting to look more realistic. The forehead, because we increased the size of the face, the forehead needs a little bit more space on it. I'm trying to figure out how to part the hair here. Which part is behind, which part is after. And you see how all those thin brush strokes that you made, they just did not do much for the portrait. And I really do want to add in that devious kind of self-satisfaction. Really proud of her kill kind of character. And you see how we're moving into script writing? Here, let me just use my... Oh, I don't have one installed right now. The hard round Photoshop brush. Preset manager. Alright, let me just use the elliptical marquee tool. Deselect. You can keep it a small pupil, you can keep it a large pupil. But I usually use a perfect circle when I am doing these because the eyes are completely asymmetrical, by the way. I usually use a perfect circle because I just don't want to lose on that anatomy. Oops. Merge down. Sorry if you hear talking in the background. You might want to open up the eyes a bit more if she's a devious warrior. She's got that really open-eyed glare. Also a very proud warrior. I would do so much more with the expression as well. Very active expression. I would drag that smile all the way up. Lower that there. And not just that, I would keep that upper eyelid area open, revealing a lot of that upper white space, and then of course that devious squint. So for anyone who's doing a villain for this month's challenge, this is the kind of stuff we're talking about here. See how much expression she has. Look at the production quality, and this is all to do with the same telltale fundamentals that everyone's missing in their work. Okay. A little bit more on the eye socket development. Really want to develop that eye socket. So she's kind of gentle face, but at the same time, she's definite troublemaker, and that's what we want to see in your layering of your personality, your rendering power, all of that stuff. And when an eye squints, the lower eyelid crease kind of just evens out. So we don't need that much presence there. Okay? So before, very plain, simple face. Makes me angry. Because I know that with a couple of studies, really focused, 2-week, 3-week, I'm not talking about like years and years. I'm talking about a 2-week, 3-week regimen of traceover diagrams, form studies, breaking apart all the major functional components of the eye into its most simple native geometry. And then you start, when you figure that out, you get more comfortable with all those regions as islands. You'll start combining them together as one thing, which is the face. You'll be able to render this quickly and better. Before, after. This is a character who we want to know. This is a character who we want to learn more about. Where you were before, the character was so distant from us, we really didn't know what we were doing, what the character was all about. Of course, the other eye isn't very well rendered right now, so I don't have time to do it all. But when you're grayscaling, you can bring in that yellow shimmer as a white with dodge tool. Just be careful with dodge tool. And someone's asked me before, why is dodge tool so dangerous? Because it exponentially raises your values up. It doesn't linearly raise them up. So every time you press, your value is just with that one extra linear level rise. When you use dodge tool on color, it not only saturates exponentially, but highlights exponentially. And not just that, we've talked about the dangers of soft brush and that tapered edge, which is way wider than you think it is. So it's doing more damage, interrupting your core shadow lines. And really look at the video history that we have, at least from the last 2 months. Oh, actually, I've been on break for a while. Last 4 or 5 months, I do talk about the dangers of soft brush and what it can do. And if you're a student who's suffering with this kind of hollowness in their work, this kind of unfamiliar character design style, flatness, anime dependent, now is the time for you to take your dream seriously and start doing some studies. It's not a lot of work. Everybody has to do it. Nobody got to the end without doing studies, and anybody who did is a porn artist. Okie dokie. Any questions at all about our paint over today? Damn it, I can't seem to stop. Alright, now I just really like this character. So you see how before the head size and the face size was very small? Squint your eyes, you'll see it. Alright. Any questions at all before I get going? To remind everybody, please join the Villain Design Challenge. I will have to rewrite the entire brief for you guys. To get to the challenge, go to istebrak.com. Click on the Reddit icon. It'll take you there. Please join the Reddit. The only way to win and attend the challenge or join the challenge is to join Reddit and post to the community challenge post right here. This is where I pick everything from our critique hour today, as well as future challenges and future critique hours. I choose everything out of the Reddit, so please join the Reddit as soon as you can. Can I send the corrected? No, I don't send corrected pieces. Do I critique unfinished 14-day challenges? If I have the time. How can I fix the pose? Or how can you fix the pose? I don't mind the pose. The pose looks very neutral and very proportionate, but I wouldn't worry about the pose if you have this much before and after work to take care of in your skill set for portraits. I wouldn't even think about the human body. Just perfect what you can do with the portrait for now. It is the backbone of your skill. It's the backbone of your portfolio. It's what you offer people as an artist. If you don't know how to create people, and people need faces, by the way, then you won't be hired. Simple. Okay. You're very welcome. I love these whole ripping crits. That's the best kind. I mean, if anything outside of a whole ripping crit is just not giving enough information. One point or another, I realize if I really want to give all the information, I have to just not care about your feelings. But it's not like I don't compliment when it's earned, when it's deserved. Would you critique absolute beginner exercises? Yeah, I do that regularly. How would I maintain my drawing skill and keep practicing if I'm very busy and have little time to sit down and do heaps of studies? The most efficient thing that you can do for your art right now in a short amount of time is sculpt. Sculpting universally improves all aspects of what you might sketch one day. Keeps you away from symbol dependency, keeps you thinking in the z-axis. If you're sculpting humans, you're still thinking about human anatomy. You're constantly seeing light on form with Maya or ZBrush or whatever you're using to sculpt or model. So you're always thinking about the light on the object. It's just everything is benefited from sculpting. You can hand sculpt, you can digitally sculpt, but that is the way to improve with a short amount of time. Sculpt one bust a day, one face a day. You'll find that your sketches and your renders at the end of your, whatever the period before you can start really rendering again, you'll notice by that time everything will have improved hand in hand. Everything went up at the same time. No one pillar stayed low. Thank you, Lava. I'm really happy to be back. Thank you, everyone. Villain challenge is already a lot of fun. Evil guys are a lot of fun to draw. Yep. And if you don't know how to draw villains, you can always let me have all this information was on the post, but now it's all gone. Then you can take a look at the old villain challenges that I uploaded, which I will upload for you again, so you guys can see. I will link it. It's already up there. Is it interchangeable to sculpt either 2D or 3D software? What do you mean 2D software? There's no way to sculpt with 2D. I mean straight up sculpting. Either you're sculpting with 3D or you're sculpting in real life. Did I say 2D? 3D or 2D? No, I think I said like by hand or by... Yeah. No, you need clay. Or you need a sculpting program. Thanks for class. Can't wait to buy the book. Thank you, everyone. So don't forget about the Portrait Studio sale in June. Really important for anyone who wants a copy of Portrait Studio. If you don't know what it is, it's a light generation, reference generation engine. There's tons of videos on it, and if you want to know more about it, you can just go to istebrak.com and click on the store icon. Click on Portrait Studio. There's a lot of video features and trailers talking about Portrait Studio and what it does, how to build these scenes and build references for yourself. If you want to wait for the sale, if the price is too steep, you can wait for June. All my brushes are available on my store as well. If you want to support on Patreon, you can also do that. Just as a $1 patron, if you enjoyed what you saw today, if you're enjoying this educational setup that we have here, and you want to give back, you can join as a watcher. And get rewards, and any higher tier gets more rewards. And then that is it. Villain Design Challenge is due on the 30th. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please join Reddit so you can stay connected to the class. This is where I announce all sale times, where I announce today's Critique Hour was announced for anyone who did not get a notification from YouTube for some reason. I announce it here as well. I announce it on Facebook, on Twitter. And I really appreciate it when you guys come out for the recordings. Damn it, I always say that. I really appreciate when you guys come out for the live streams. Those who need the recordings, I pretty much just upload those for people who can't make it on the live streams. But it is a live class. It is technically a class. And I like when you guys show up for the live stream. Thank you, everyone. I will see you guys on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye, guys.